just let you know how this portion of our meeting is going to work. Each of them will have 3 minutes to address you, and then we will have a series of questions. It will be a mix of questions, as I said, and they will have a minute each to respond to each of those questions. How tough is that? But we're going to ask them to do it, and then they'll have a chance to respond at the end. With no further ado, let's begin. I'm going to start. We'll go in alphabetical order again, and that means hearing first from Gary Andrew.
Well, thank you very much for that, and of course, thank you for being here, everybody. It shows how invested you are in the community. You want to take the time to come out here and listen to your candidates who are going to hopefully run the operation here for the next 4 years. Now, where I'm going on this course, my name is Gary Andrew. I've been here for almost 50 years, and I'm just going to take you back on a little trip here. 1969, my late wife and I fixed up a little cabin on the family property and stayed there for 2 weeks, and we vowed that we had always make this our final home. It took us a little while to get back, had to do some work and that sort of thing, but we finally did get back. In 1994, we came back, we built a home on the island. That was my first foray into the public realm and the public community performance. I became the president of the South Bowen Community Association because at that time the development was going on at Cowan Point, and we wanted to make sure we had some representation there. And so I'm still president of the South Bowen Community Association, and the development is still going on. Anyway, I'm living on the island. My daughter is living with me. She has 2 children. My grandchildren are at school. I have another son living on, and his wife living on the island. Their 2 kids are at school on Bowen. So that's why I'm here. I'm invested in the community. I love this community. I love everything about it. I love everybody in the community. Sorry. Anyway, that's about all I'm going to say for now. There's all the platform stuff is on the website and that sort of thing, and we'll get down to some questions here and just see what you think. But thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Gary, and now I'd like to introduce Melanie Mason.
Hi everybody, I'm really excited to be here. I'm really excited to be running for mayor. And today I just want to go a little bit briefly, just give you a little bit background about myself, about the experience I'm going to bring to the table, and about my 4 priorities that I would concentrate on as mayor. So, for those of you who don't know me, I have 2 kids that come here to Bix. I have a wonderful husband who commutes to town daily using transit. And what else was I going to say? Oh my goodness. Transit. And I probably also live in Bowen's smallest house with 2 big fat cats. As your municipal councillor for the past 4 years, I'm really proud of the work that we've done adopting Bowen Island's first transportation plan. I'm equally pleased to see that we're already starting to implement that plan, and you can see that from the bike path just outside here and the work that we've been doing down on Cardiata Road. So prior to coming to Bowen, I was an associate director at a town planning consultancy where I project managed the spatial components of residential, environmental, and renewable energy projects. And I really feel that sets me up well to start to face some of the issues that we'll be facing as a community and as a council in the next 4 years. So my 4 priorities that I would concentrate on would be, affordable and diverse housing, community infrastructure, transportation, and the environment. I think it's really important that council makes housing its key priority for the next 4 years. It's just been really, really difficult to see so many of our friends and neighbors having to leave the island because of lack of rental accommodation or attainable housing. So what can we do over the next 4 years to improve the situation? I'd really like to see us getting on with comprehensive planning of our community lands. We can work with decent housing. We can work with private developers. We can also start to work with some of our local housing nonprofits, such as Verge. And we also can start to use some of the tools that are being enabled by the province, such as rental-only zoning and programs such as the Housing Hub. So my second priority would be community infrastructure and ensuring that we see the community center built and the fire hall built this term. Also providing strong support for our medical clinic. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go to the next one. The third would be transportation, ensuring good, we're implementing our transportation plan, and the fourth would be the environment, ensuring no industrial logging on Crown lands, and that we're doing our part for climate change. I've got more to say, but I'll say that in the last 2 minutes, so I'm off.
Okay, so now we get into it. So I'm going to take off this sweater. So here we go. Now's the time for questions. So each of the questions, both Gary and Melanie will have an opportunity to answer, and as I said, they'll have a minute to do it. And I'm just sorry in advance for having to stop here, but I will. Question number one, and we'll start with you, Gary. I want you to name a contentious or polarizing issue that council will have to face in this coming term, and tell us how you're going to manage the expression of differing viewpoints around the council table.
Okay, well, thanks, Andrea. First and foremost, I would hope that we don't have any really polarizing issues. I didn't want to bring up Ferry marshalling again. We certainly don't want to go there. The thing about polarizing issues, contentious issues is polarizing is really off the scale, and we're not going to go there because we're going to frame it in a way that it's not going to get there to start with. I think the interesting part of this is there has to be conversation, there has to be communication. I found through the last 4 years that we've been on this, that where we've run into problems, and particularly with the public, is that we haven't communicated. Communication, and I thought we were doing a pretty good job of communicating, but it wasn't even close. As far as council is concerned, you know, we do have a democracy here, and everybody's allowed to have their own viewpoint. I would like to say that as a mayor, obviously I work for a consensus on any issue that we were doing, but if we don't have consensus, then we go to a vote. And that's the system we have.
Thanks, Gary. The time's up.
Okay, sorry.
Melanie, do you want me to read it again? Are you good?
Okay, now I've got it in front of me. Again, one hopes we will not have contentious or polarizing issues. I think one of the discussions we're going to be having to have is what we're going to do. I can see us having a lot of opinions and differing thoughts on what would be residential and how we manage that. And I think one of the things we've learned over the last year is right at the beginning, like that we need to have lots of public engagement so that we're all having our input in right at the beginning, and that we're carrying the community with us through a journey when we're starting new issues or initiatives. So that's my answer on that one.
Question 2. Council makes decisions collectively, and the mayor is the official spokesperson for council and the municipality. When speaking on behalf of council, how will you ensure that the collective decisions of council are reflected? And we'll start with you, Melanie.
For me, this is a pretty easy one. Once council has made a decision and you put through your final resolution, that is the voice of council, and so that is what you express. The conversation that you have up to that, well, that's when, you know, you're trying to bring everybody together. So it really is just being the voice of council. So Simple.
Yeah, absolutely correct, Melanie. I think just a little elaboration on that. What happens in council chambers, and we've been very lucky with this council, is that we've had some pretty good runs at it, but when we hit the council door, everything is forgotten. And as mayor, you have to take the decision that council makes and you have to run with that. And you have to run with that with enthusiasm and whatever it takes. But you cannot say, well, you know, that was a vote 3 vote or whatever. Doesn't matter. Whatever comes out of that council meeting is what you have to promote. Thank you.
Question 3, in 60 seconds or less. What role can council play in addressing climate change? And what immediate steps can we be taking? Gary.
Well, first and foremost, and it's going to be a tough one to get in a minute here, but first and foremost, we have to agree about climate change, that it is a real thing. We have to agree that it's global warming. We have to agree about greenhouse gases. And it's kind of a funny question. There's sort of a cause and effect here. We know what the cause is. We have to do everything we can to eliminate the automobile on Bowen Island. And it's going to take time, and we need better transportation and a whole bunch of other things. We have to get into active transportation and that sort of thing, bikes and walking. There is another side of it, and of course, that with the climate change, we're going to have a whole bunch more rain. We're going to have extreme temperatures. We are working on an emergency preparedness plan, which is going to deal with those. But we have to take into consideration all those little bits and pieces. The flooding isn't too bad for us, but the heat is really something we have to worry about, fires and that sort of thing. And we just have to be very conscious of what's happening. Thank you.
I think we need to take some significant steps on this, and through the transportation plan, we noted that 90% of our island's GHGs come from transportation, 40% of which come from all our off-island transportation choices. So I think that is an area where we can make some significant impacts on. Also, we can be looking at initiatives such as Step 3 of the STEP Code. So I think there are some easy wins for us to be able to accomplish in the next 4 years, and transportation being one of them. It'd be great if we can start, when we're looking at planning, to going from a car-dependent island to perhaps car-optional. And so just taking some sort of steps in those directions.
Question 4. Development on Bowen Island is increasing, but we still need to preserve the beauty of nature that makes Bowen a special place. What are 2 things you would do to balance these pressures? And we'll start with you, Melanie.
Okay, our 2 steps I think would be sustainable development and smart planning. To balance these off, we really love our green spaces here, yet we know we need to be doing something about housing. So let's look at our community lands in and around Snug Cove, which are close to amenities. And we can look at having gentle density close to the cove while trying to protect the areas further out. And then smart planning. Let's just be very smart on how we go about with planning, making sure that any rezonings that we're approving, that they're done in a smart way that creates a really sustainable and manageable community.
Yeah, just on that, I think, which is a relatively new thing, which we had a little presentation on the other day, was is conservation development. And for those of you who don't know, conservation development is taking a 10-acre piece of property that's zoned for one house, putting 2 houses on it on 2 acres and turning the rest into a park. Great idea. But that has to be an advocation. We have to work on that, and we can build it right into our own our building process and our permit process. The other one is dealing with and trying to get a hold of Metro, and dealing with Metro and the current Crown, the province that own our Crown land, and talk about taking over some more of the Crown land for parkland. That would be a nice thing to do. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to a couple of wildcard questions that came from the door this afternoon. The first is a simple one. The community center. Why do we need it, and how will we pay for it? Gary?
Thanks for that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, why do we need it? We need a gathering place on Bowen Island. We need a place for functions. We need a place for programs. We need to have a place where Bowen gathers. You know, unfortunately, we're probably the only small town or municipality in BC that does not have a community center. Is it ideal? Well, it's a start, let's put it that way. How are we going to pay for it? We're going to borrow money. That's how we're going to pay for it, and we're going to get grants. We're not going to borrow money. We're going to get donors on Bowen Island, and we've got some money in reserves, and we've got a business case and all the rest of it, and we're going out for funding now, so we're going to hit the donors. That's the first part. The second part is obviously we're going to go to the government for grants, and I think it's looking pretty good for us, but you'll see a lot more to come in the near future. Thank you.
Why do we need a community center? Because right now we don't actually own any of our programming space. We have a growing demographic of young families on the island, and we need a place like this for our programming to happen. So I'm actually really excited about the plans we're bringing forward for the community center. It's got multi-purpose use space, it's got arts, and I think it's going to be a great gathering space. Also, I know this isn't the most popular idea, but the municipal hall will be in there, and I think it'll be great to have that sort of civic presence down in the middle of the cove. And I really love the location of our community center. It's going to be right next to the school, and for parents, it's going to really, you know, just having that close proximity of the community center will be really great. How are we going to pay for it? We have a robust plan where the Canada Infrastructure Funding Program's just opened up, and we're hoping to apply for about $8 million from that program.
Another question from the door. How will you support good governance?
Good governance starts with, I believe, really open, good dialogue. It starts with great public engagement, listening to the community. It also starts with good discussion around the council table, having a good strategic plan, a clear focus of where we want to go. And yeah, but I definitely think if there's something that I would love to be able to concentrate on in the upcoming term, it would be really good, solid public engagement early on in council initiatives.
All good points, Melanie. Yeah, the thing about good governance is, you know, we have to be, first of all, we have to be fiscally responsible. We have to run the government. If you look at the flow chart for any of the local governments, the community is at the top, and we have to answer to the community at all times. We can do what we want, but we have to come back to the community for approval. There's no question about that on most issues. We have to be, like I say, we have to be fiscally responsible, and we have to always keep the best interest of Bowen Island as a premier sort of light out there that we always use as a guiding principle, and if it's going to work, and we have to look at the ramifications of everything that we do in the government, and we have to keep it effective. Thank you.
Okay, this is going to be the last question for our mayoral candidates. 2018 saw an increase in property taxes. Are you in favor of raising property taxes again to provide more amenities for our growing population? And Gary, it starts with you.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. Absolutely not. That's an easy answer. Last year was a bit of a shock. We had some exemplary, sort of extraordinary, I guess, expenses that we had to deal with. But the normal tax increase is just sort of an inflationary thing, somewhere 2.5 plus or minus, and we will do everything that we possibly can. I do not want to raise taxes. Absolutely not. And we certainly won't be raising taxes for amenities, I can guarantee you that. Thank you.
So yes, no, I'm not in favor of raising taxes for new amenities. I believe we've been doing a really good job of identifying external funding sources to pay for things such as the Kobe water treatment plant. We've got a federal infrastructure funding for that. And also we're looking for extended funding for the community center. However, we do need to look seriously at how we are going to be paying and maintaining our current assets. And other communities have had, when they've looked at what is needed to be saved to be paying for our current assets, they've had to consider, slight budget increases. So in that instance, yes, we might have to consider increasing property taxes to cover our current assets, but I don't support it for paying for future assets.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we've got a minute for each of you to make some final remarks. I'm going to suggest you just stay there and be coffee if you like. And again, I'll start with you, Gary.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, final remarks, I guess, what I like to say here. I'm very involved with the community. I'm on 7 municipal committees. I'm on 3 community organization committees and foundations. And people say, well, why do you do that? Why do you do that? It takes a lot of time. I do that because I care. And just like everybody else here who cares about Bowen Island, I care what happens to Bowen Island. And if I am the mayor, I can guarantee you, like I said, everything that we do at a council level will be taken on the basis of, is it the best thing for Bowen Island in general? And what is the impact going forward? We can't forget about those sort of things. We can't do things short term. There was a nice statement from the last trustee there. And he said 20 years back, 30 years forward. And I think that's a good thing to look at. Thank you.
Hi, well, I'm really, really passionate about working for a sustainable and livable community. I really feel to make a place for all of us to live here, we really need to be looking at making it sort of affordable, livable space. My 4 priorities that I would really love to be able to focus on, as I said, was community infrastructure, the environment, transportation, and most important of all, housing. Let's just make this a place where we can sustain our, the community that we have, and that we're not losing friends and neighbors. And yes, I feel I do really have the energy and the motivation to hit the ground running on all these really important issues. Thank you.